Welcome to Latinos Who Tech. My name is Hugo Castellanos. I'm an engineer and I work in Silicon Valley. I am originally from Caracas, Venezuela, and I've been calling the US home for the last 20 years. When it comes to Latinos in the US, we are 60 million people, but we're only 3% of the workers in science or engineering. As a professional in Silicon Valley, I've had the opportunity to meet some remarkable professionals that work in the tech industry, Latinos like me. With this podcast, I want to bring you a collection of their stories and how they got a job in tech in the first place. And if they had to start all over again, what would they do differently? I want to share with you career advice on how to get a job in tech, how to deal with imposter syndrome, how to find your tribe when you're the only one in the room. This is Latinos Who Tech. This episode of Latinos Who Tech is brought to you by Audible. Audible is the world's premium platform for audiobooks with over 150,000 titles. If you're like me, you're passionate about learning new things, but finding the time to read may be difficult. Audiobooks are a great alternative. You can get a free 30-day trial plus a free audiobook by going to audibletrial.com/Latinos. Go and support them since they support us. Thank you. Marcos Ciarrocchi, welcome to Latinos Who Tech.
Awesome, thank you, Hugo.
So tell me your story.
I'm from San Juan de los Morros. It's a city in the center of Venezuela, a couple hours from Caracas. I've always been I would say a good learner. And so I ended up going to engineering school in Venezuela, the Universidad Simón Bolívar. Then after that, I did kind of a double degree in Politécnico de Torino. I studied electrical engineering. Halfway kind of through my degree, I had this big kind of realization of like trying to figure out what did I truly want to do after I graduated. I think you get to that point when you're kind of running from one class to another, you don't think about it, but then there's a point where you're like, okay, now I have to start deciding. And electrical engineering is a very broad degree. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of options. It's not like maybe like computer science might be a lot more narrow, or like chemical engineering. I feel like electrical engineering allows you a lot of mobility, right? Like you can go into telecommunications, you can go into like power electronics, you can go into microconductor or like microchip design. Mm-hmm. So you can do so many things, and you'll get to that point where you're like, okay, now what am I good at? And for me, it was very kind of particular because I really liked programming and I really like consumer products. And electrical engineering is a little bit far from that, from building products. So I kind of taught myself to write more like high-level programming languages, JavaScript, web technologies, HTML, like how to write maybe like a web app in Python. And through that, I started like building small products, and they never got traction, right? Like they never worked. They worked as in everything was complete, the product was complete, and but I never got customers or users. And so that kind of sparked like a whole set of things that I said I had to learn, right? Like why are some products or companies more successful than others, right? Like, or some of them get users, some don't. So that got me into learning about like product design and like product marketing, digital marketing. And I call it that there's like this sentence that almost like summarizes it perfectly, is focusing on the what versus the how. So I, at some point, kind of stumbled upon the story of Reid Hoffman. So this founder of LinkedIn, and he had kind of a similar path. I think he actually comes from a different background, but he landed in a role called product manager, right? Like in product management. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, this is what's right for me, because I like to be more of a generalist. I like to learn many things. I still like the technical side a lot, but I'm not the best developer. I'm more of a systems thinker, and I like to connect that with product design, understanding user psychology, right? And connecting all of that with marketing. Like, how do I get more people to use our product or buy our product or grow the company, right? And
got it. So the way I think about it is, no, thank you for that. Is maybe I'm not the best violin player or the best conductor, but I'm the best arranger, because I know what every instrument needs to sound like. I know the kind of melodies I can do. I know what a really good musician can perform. So it's kind of like organizing that. So it's like you can have visibility on the product, on the marketing, on the business idea. So it's just being more cohesive.
So I think that was kind of a great realization for me. It was also something that I really liked. It was kind of a good fit for my passions, and it's also something that's in the market, right? Like, and this is probably something that most of us kind of know, but you have to find that spot where what the market needs meets what you're good at and what you like. And so I feel like that was kind of an immediate kind of click. And I just started kind of going deeper on the world of product, and then after that in growth.
Got it. So you mentioned Reid Hoffman and realizing that he's a product manager, great, but you're in Italy at the moment, right? So it's like he's all the way, like 9 hours ahead, in California. So do you know any other product managers in your area? No, how do you get to do like any informational interviews with any, like, how do you find out that, you wanted to be a PM?
That's funny. There's actually, the world of product is fairly new, and there's no degrees for that. So it's not like you can just go and get a degree in product management. There might be a few boot camps now, or like some specific, like small degrees, but it's something fairly new, and it's, not very homogeneous, right? Like the approach and the definition of it is very fuzzy. And so I started just doing a lot of research and doing informational interviews. So I just went on LinkedIn, tried to find people that had kind of a similar background. I actually connected with a few folks that were from my university that were doing kind of product design or product management. And I went on and I was using that opportunity to ask them how they kind of made that shift. Breaking into product is really hard because it's all about the experience, but you cannot get experience if you don't get a job.
Yes, and you cannot chicken and the egg, right?
And you cannot get a degree. So it's all about trust. In a way, the people that are hiring you have to trust that you know about product and that you can do it. So I got super lucky. There's actually a funny story. My wife's a product designer. She's at Airbnb now. And at the time, we were kind of both realizing that we wanted to come to Silicon Valley. And I was kind of finishing my engineering degree. She's a designer focusing on UI design. And I wanted to gain kind of reps and learn about product management. So I started being a kind of a ghost product manager for her, similar to like a ghost writer for a writer. So I would log into her email and reply to all the leads or all the clients I wanted to work with her, prep all the work, do wireframes, do all the strategy, send to the clients, get it all approved. And then at night when she would come back from work, we just start working in our freelance kind of projects. And at some point when I said, well, I'm about to graduate, so I need my own portfolio, I'm going to start forwarding the emails to myself. And then the next email was from a company here in Silicon Valley, and they were like, "Hey, we need help with design." I'm like, "Well, it's funny because we have a whole team and we can help you. You should talk to Marcos." And so I use
this is you writing an email to yourself, in the CC line.
And this nowadays that's my partner at the agency, so it's we still laugh about it because it's like me introducing myself. And then I used the opportunity to basically do an informational interview with him. He was a VP of product at Yumly at the time. And they were looking for help on design. But I was like, no, you actually need a product manager. Maybe one like me. So, I have a few. I think it's really important that you know how to take those conversations, how to have those conversations so that people get to know you and know that you're passionate about product or growth or digital products. In my case, it was consumer products.
So as you're having these informational interviews, what works for you? Do you have an idea in the back of your mind of, now that you're a professional, you have all this experience as a product manager in the growth area. When people like Marcos, 10 years ago, approach you and they say, hey, I'd like to have an informational interview with you. Are there any key ways of doing it? The right way of doing it, the wrong way of doing it? What does that look like for you?
I have a few. Yeah, it's a really good question, because I think the basic approach would be I come to you, or I come to this person that I admire somehow, right? And I say, I'm going to use some of their time. They're being very generous, and I'm going to ask them whatever question I have in my mind, right? Like easy questions that I call like simple questions. What is product management, right? And I actually consider that to be a bit of a waste of time for both, because you can learn that from reading a book, and they can save their time. So I think the informational interviews are actually a great vehicle if you you do your homework, you know what they are really good at, and then you prepare really good questions. And then you use that time to convey the things that you're passionate about, the things that you know, by asking really good questions. So questions that are not obvious for them to answer. So the thing that's not written in the first chapter of the book, right? And so I think that's actually an amazing vehicle, and everyone should be using it if they're going through a career change or if they're looking for another job. But you have to do the homework, right? Like you have to know the person that you're talking to, what's their background, what have been their challenges, how does that align with your challenges and the thing that you have learned, and then just spend some time prepping, right? Like it's really valuable time. And if you get someone that's really ahead in the industry, they have a lot of connections, and even if they don't have an opportunity for you, but they're impressed by your questions, they'll be referring you to everyone they know that needs a product manager or someone smart, right? So I think they're an amazing channel, but you have to be very purposeful when you go to these interviews. I think here in Silicon Valley, people tend to be very generous, so it's easy to not put the homework and put the time into preparing well for these.
Definitely. And I think that a lot of people that are a little bit scared of approaching people that have 10 years, 20 years of experience. But you know what? They're people just like you. They're people just like you. And I'd add to that maybe if you can, of course, if it's possible, try to get a warm intro somehow.
Yeah.
If you, we have all these great tools, right? We have LinkedIn. We have all these networks, all these societies and like non-for-profits that we can join. And guess what? You might have somebody in common already.
Yeah.
So like what just happened earlier today, you had a contact, so this Agustin Paniagua, and you thought that, he would be a great guy for your podcast, Hugo. I want to introduce you to him. Yeah. And you introduced me to him, and you basically pitched me to him, and we just did a podcast in the spot.
Yeah. And that's because I know you take your podcast seriously. You're professional about it. So everyone I know that I think could be a good guest, I'll just recommend them to you, right? Like that happens when you convey that you care about something. And I know you care about this, like super serious professional. You prepare, and so why not, right? It's like. And that's what actually happens with the informational interviews when they're done right. Like people, you just create kind of people that are going to be spreading who you are and what you do, what you like. If you manage to convey that, you're not going to do that with like the easy questions. I feel
definitely in my informational interview story, it's more of a follow-up story, because I think that's the other piece that. People, we had a great conversation. You asked amazing questions and great, but you didn't follow up after the fact.
Yeah.
Maybe you followed up 6 months after. Yeah. That's not a great follow up. You want to follow up the week after, or maybe 2 weeks after. At least say thank you, right? Yeah. Or say, hey, I know that you mentioned XYZ product. By the way, here's a review that I think you find interesting. Here's a short article about it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you my story about follow-ups. I was recruiting for my company at this conference for Hispanic engineers. Yeah. And a student that was looking for internships, she actually approached me and again, there's probably like 50 students behind her online that want to talk with me. And she broke the pattern, because when they approach you, they always say, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, I'm majoring in this, and I want an internship with your company." And I probably hear that like 300 times, in one.
Lose track of
and that's fine, it's part of the job, right?
Yeah.
But then she actually asked me, so I was wondering if you could share with me what's the biggest challenge you have this quarter. And the fact that she meant it. Like, I could tell that this is not something she read on LinkedIn, on the line, she meant it. And, okay. So I'm actually covering Latin America now, and I have a lot of trouble. I spend a lot of time translating technical terms. I'm sure this happens to you as well, that we learn things like, SEO, search engine optimization.
Yeah, how do you say that?
And I'm sure you can translate it literally, but there's also other things like, like transconductance operational amplifiers. You can say operadores amplificadores de transconductancia. You could say that. But I told that to her, and she said, "Oh, that's really interesting." And then we have a quick conversation, like a 3-4 minute conversation. Then, well, thank you, and stay in touch. Here's my email. And 2 weeks later, I get an email. "Hugo, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming to this conference and recruiting for us. By the way, I found this online dictionary from the European Union. It's a technical dictionary for 22 languages. I think you'd find it useful.
Nice.
Stay in touch."
Yeah, that's a way.
And then she signed it. "I'm sure you're busy. No need to reply."
Nice.
So, okay. So my impression is like, okay, boss, I need headcount right now. I need to hire somebody.
Nice.
So when I was looking for an intern for that summer, guess who I called first?
Yeah.
Because she made that impression, and I could tell that she asked a smart question, and she followed up with something of great value.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good story. As you're telling that story, I remember. So I just said, I talked to this guy, I did an informational interview, and I got the job, but that's not what truly happened. Well, at least it didn't happen over a couple of weeks, so it took months.
Right.
Like, I was still going to college, and used to talk about the importance of the follow-ups. So I was doing these informational interviews with a few people from Silicon Valley, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to come to the US. So I was looking for a product management job in Europe. And in Europe, things are not as advanced as they are here in the US in the world of products. So they're more conservative. So I was going to these interviews, and I recall specifically, I hadn't learned about agile project management. So things like Scrum and like user stories, it's like a process, right? Like, it's something that in the grand scheme of things is something you could learn very quickly. And I botched an interview in London because of that portion of the kind of the whole day. They said, "We want someone with experience in this." And I recall I went back and I just emailed, and I followed up actually with a question. And I was like, "Hey, I just botched this interview because of this particular topic. They said I was really good at the product design question and the analytics question and this and that, but I botched it because of the Scrum methodology, whatever question they asked me." And this guy who's a VP of product, he's like, that doesn't matter. Like, if you did all the other stuff well, then you're probably ready. And that's when he offered me the job. That was so funny because he was like very, very counterintuitive, but he realized that I was asking him, "Hey, do you know how should I prep for this?" And he gave me a couple of resources, and then we started chatting more about like completing kind of my training or my learning as a product manager, or to get ready to enter the industry. And that's when he realizes like, oh, he knows all the things I need him to know. So they start giving him work. And yeah, that's how I got started.
Yeah, no, that's great because I'm not sure what the framework is called, But like imagine that the knowledge you have is a big pie chart.
Yeah.
There's a slice of the stuff you know.
Yeah.
There's one of the stuff that you don't know.
Yeah.
And then there's one of the stuff that you know that you don't know.
Yeah.
So the fact that you showcase that, hey, I did great on this part, but I don't know this agile thing. Could you please share with me some resources so I can improve on that? So that's I think that was the key thing that made it flip to your way. The fact that this kid failed the interview, but he still wants to learn. Okay, that's resilience. And because agile, that's something you can learn over a weekend. Right?
Yeah,
like it's pretty straightforward. Like actually like deploying it and using it in a project and shipping it. Yeah, it takes some time, but you can learn it, right? So it's it's fantastic. No, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that's a really good point on the importance of the good follow-ups as well.
Yeah. So tell me, what does a product manager for growth do? So because I hear this word all around me, like growth, and I think like growth marketing, analytics. Like, what is growth anyway?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I'm pretty sure if you ask this to like 10 people that work in growth, they all will give you different answers.
Yeah, I'll get like 15 different answers from 10 people, right?
But I have a few, so I have like a 2 or 3 step answer. So the first part of the answer is, so a product manager is a person focusing more on the what rather than the how, right? Like the how is a job of the designer and the engineer. And the product manager is kind of going to the market, to the business side, and figuring out the needs there, so that they can translate that into a brief for the engineering team to create the product, or the design team to design it.
Right.
And so you have that, and there's a set of techniques to do that in the kind of traditional way, which are more centered around user experience design and user-centered design. That's kind of the traditional way that things were done in Silicon Valley, at least for consumer products. In the last few years, what happened was a bunch of the work started splitting, right? Like in particular with consumer internet, you have the design of the product, and then you need to do a series of things to get the product into the market that are the job of the same team. In a way, it's different when you do like a chip. You have a product manager designing or like defining what the market needs, and then you have some engineers building that, and then you send that to the market, and they put it in stores or they put it in laptops, and like a traditional marketing team will take it to the customers in the real world. But in the digital world, the same people that are building the thing are the ones selling it to the customers. So what happens is a lot of people that had engineering backgrounds started doing this. So I think growth is kind of that space of product and marketing approached by a bunch of engineers. And it kind of was born. Some people started giving it the name of growth. It's like probably the people that some of the first kind of social network companies were the first ones to start working in this area, but it's basically somewhere building the product and somewhere figuring out how to get you to invite your friends. And so these guys were usually engineers, were product managers, but they had this mindset of like very data-driven thinking and very systems-driven thinking. So that's kind of the second part of the answer is there's some parts of the product or of the company that can be developed using this mindset, this data-driven mindset. And so you leave not completely aside, but like you reduce the importance of like traditional methods, and then you focus more on numbers. And you use those numbers to figure out what makes your product grow in number of users, or your company or sell more, or your product to be more popular. And so it's basically, I think it's a data-driven approach to product and to design and marketing.
Got it. And I love the fact that you mentioned the social media companies, because I have this, there's this book I love. It's called by this PM from Facebook. His name is Antonio Garcia Martinez. Chaos Monkeys.
Chaos Monkeys.
Chaos Monkeys is fantastic. That he said that he has this image of he would be in a meeting with Zuckerberg, And you know what? Zuckerberg doesn't care what you're building as long as the graph is up and to the right.
Yes.
Like, hey, what we're building, is it good? Is it bad? I don't care. Is it growing? Yes. Okay, cool. Go for it. Just don't mess with the like button. Yeah. The like button was sacred, right? Don't touch it.
Yeah. So there's a quote that I think summarizes growth, and it's I think it's from the CEO of Netscape, and it's I think there was like this meeting, and he said, if we have data, let's use the data, and if all we have are opinions, let's use mine. And I think that summarizes really well, because it's like, let's just find the data. Let's figure out how our product works. What are the mechanics that will make it grow, and then do that in a purposeful way. So I think this can go into like some ethical considerations and whatnot, but it's how do you make your product grow while making your users happier and your customers happier.
Right.
Yeah.
And all within the context of a digital product. So think of an application like Uber Eats, or something like the Kindle app, or Audible, or whoever you are that you are listening to this podcast, that podcast app in your phone.
Yeah.
So how can we grow that user base? How can we retain them?
Yeah.
How can we not even like grow the user base? Just get people's eyes and attention span to realize that, oh yeah, you guys exist.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not for me, but I can tell my friend about it.
Yeah. So this I think you mentioned something that's interesting. There's a concept of they call it the North Star, and that's kind of the metric that you're going after. So that's a super interesting topic, because different companies will have different North Stars. So if you're Facebook, their North Star is a number of daily active users, and that's why all the controversy today, because they're creating addiction and whatnot. For other companies, so for example, for YouTube, it might be the number of minutes that you're watching videos, because maybe you log in once a day, you watch 1 minute, but they want you to like see more content on YouTube. Some other companies have like different goals. So for example, they might measure weekly activity, and they might be measuring, for example, for Google, it's the fact that you found the answer to your question. So Google was very unique, because they were one of the first companies where they make more money the less time you're on Google, right? Like if they ship you to the right company and you're happy, then probably that company paid Google via an ad or something, and so they monetize it that way. So different companies will have different North Stars. So for a podcast app, it might be the number of listening minutes, and they might be, for an education company, it's a course completion, right? Like it's how many people are completing the courses that I'm creating. And so after you define that, then you can start with that engineering and data-driven mindset, breaking it up into a series of steps, right? And so you define, so for you to complete a course, what do I need to do? So I need to first get you into my site, and then I need you to create an account, and then I need you to choose a course or courses that you like, or maybe the degree if it's like a more complex product. And then I need you to start the classes. And then if you forget, I'll send you a notification. And then finally, I'll get you to complete it. And so now I have mapped my whole funnel. That's what we call the user funnel. And then you start reverse engineering what you need to do to move your users through the funnel, and also to get more people on top of the funnel.
Right.
So that's the typical most used way to kind of split this work in most companies is acquisition, user acquisition, then user activation, then user retention, then revenue, and then referral. And I can go a little bit into each one of those.
Sure. And maybe you can give me like an example of, because I love how you mentioned that online course example, because a lot of the people, the 2 or 3 people that listen to this, they're great. They're big in online learning, so like LinkedIn Learning.
That's actually a great example. I like it. So let's put that, say, online learning product through the lens of the user funnel. So in terms of the user acquisition, these are kind of the techniques that you use to get more people on the door, right? Like coming to your product for the first time. And there's a few things you can do there. So there's probably the first one is what we call direct. direct people coming. It's like, hey, Hugo told me about this course. So you just type in onlinecourse.com and then you go there to that site, or you download the app and you go there. That's also called word of mouth when it's because of kind of organic offline virality. Second one is search, online search or SEO. That's another big channel. It's probably the biggest one today in terms of organic marketing. So you might be interested in learning about product management. So you'll type in Google product management courses, and then you'll see someone ranking there. There's 10 results. You'll choose one of them. You'll click, and so you got to the course platform there. Third one is paid marketing. So maybe you're browsing Facebook, but Facebook somehow knows that you're interested in product management or in growth, and they're like, hey, this amazing course, you should take it. So you click and you go to the platform. And then maybe the fourth one would be kind of what I call it engineer virality. You're like browsing your inbox and you're like, hey, Google invited you to take this course. Here's $5 discount for if you started today. So that's what it's more like engineer virality. And then maybe like a fifth one would be sales. So maybe someone came to your company and said, hey, we have this package, and they sell you on buying like this for the entire company. And so everyone now is signed up and has to take the course. So that's what we call user acquisition. So figuring out what, for each one of these channels, what are the mechanics that you can use to bring more people to expose them to your product.
So how are, just from your experience, how are people gathering all these data? Because I think that for I guess like less than 100 customers, you could get away with like keeping a Google sheet or something like that. But I'm sure there's like very sophisticated ways of analyzing this, because we have products that have millions of users, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I could talk a whole day about this, but this is what we call
right. That's why you're in the podcast, man. You're the expert.
Opportunity sizing and benchmarking. There's many tools there are panels out there that measure how many people are using different platforms, typing in some search queries on Google. Facebook has their own forecasting tools. So if you plug in you say, I want to run an ad against someone that's interested in product management, they'll tell you there's 2.5 million interested in this. And so what's the size of your audience for each one of these channels. And so you can create your own spreadsheet and start filling in kind of what are the steps and the parts of the funnel, and kind of breaking it down and see where you are. Maybe get a little bit of data from your competitors, see where they are and see where the gaps are. So hey, we're not doing paid marketing. Why is my competitor doing a lot more than us? And then trying to figure out if there's a way to close that gap or to beat some of the competition in each channel. So there's different tools. There's a few for SEO that are mainly focused on search volume for specific queries. For virality, it's mostly based on your internal metrics of your product. For paid platform will give you a forecast of potential audience size for your category.
Because I remember whenever I launch a podcast, a post in my Instagram page, so for Latinos Who Tech or Conexiones podcast, I noticed that they ask me, okay, do you want to share this with people that look like the people that already follow you?
Yeah.
Or you want to make your own audience?
Yeah.
And I have so much freaking fun just playing with those parameters, because what I actually do is that sometimes what I'll do is that I think about myself, right? And okay, so who is this episode for?
Yeah.
And I did this episode about Code for Venezuela, this organization that we can talk about a little bit after. And okay, I'm going to share this with people that like Venezuela and also people that like Tim Ferriss. Because these are people that care about personal development, people that care about professional development, but also have a connection with Venezuela.
Yeah.
And also want to share with people in these key locations. So I pick Miami, Houston, New York, LA, Panama City, in Panama, Bogota, and Buenos Aires.
Nice.
Because in my head, in my gut instinct is that this is where the Venezuelans are that I think would care about this kind of content.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a great start. I think I'm a little bit obsessed about using data, so I would I would take something like that and even try to add more data. Like, can we look at a census and see where the Venezuelans are? Can we see, well, what you're talking about, the lookalike audiences is really interesting because it's the machine learning way of doing this analysis. So what Facebook is doing or Instagram is they're saying, what are people, it's similar to the Netflix algorithm, right? Like people that watch this show also watch this other show. They're doing the same thing for each one of the posts that you're publishing. So they're looking at each post and tagging it with a bunch of dimensions, hashtags, and then trying to find audiences that are also likely to like it.
Right. And I think not Facebook, but Spotify has that interesting take on it. So you remember this happened at the end of 2019.
Yeah.
People are probably going to be listening to this on 2050. So yeah. I don't know when people are listening to this. So at the end of 2019, Spotify came out with this product that gave you the metrics of which genres you listen to and all those things.
Yeah.
So actually, I went into the back end of the podcast and it gave me what are my listeners listening to.
Yeah.
So it was J Balvin, Waco,
nice.
Chino y Nacho. Okay, these folks are definitely Venezuelans.
Yeah.
Or Colombians, I guess.
So now you can use that to target them on Instagram.
Exactly.
Or target us on Instagram.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
So I think the other step that I wanted to briefly, so we talked about user acquisition. That's kind of the first step in the funnel. There's a few other, I want to drill into activation and retention because I feel like those two are key and very interesting. So activation, the way I summarize it is, how do you create a successful user? That's the one-liner definition that I have for it. Different companies will define it in different ways. Some ways are very shallow and simple. Just sign up. If I get them on my page and they sign up, they are activated. They'll be successful. Some companies have more sophisticated thinking. What they do is they tend to look at what are some of the key actions that these successful users have, the people that love the product the most, that keep buying. So for example, in the case of the online course, they'll see the students that tend to finish the course and have amazing grades. What did they do? Oh, they logged in the first 3 days in a row. They set up their preferences. They connected with peer students. So the activation team or the growth team will go and say, how can we build that into the first experience of the product? So that's why you see kind of these onboarding flows today where every time you sign up for a product, they try to get you to do a few things. They try to get you to connect with your friends, to follow your interests. Mm-hmm. That's so you can understand the product that you're signing up for and use it successfully. So that's activation. And then the other one that I wanted to talk about is retention. Yeah.
No. I'm following through. It's just like, I think that there's a fair amount of data, of course, but also psychology.
Yes.
So definitely. How do I nudge my user to actually write their email address and their credit card number or whatever you need them to do to.
Yeah. So
how do you like minimize that friction? I think plays a key part also.
Yeah. That's why I think product management and growth in particular are kind of so multifaceted, and you need to understand that too. I think there's I almost see it as a stack of things, and at the top of the stack, I think there's like the UI mechanics. So like, is the button big enough? Is it not transparent, right? Like, can I see it? Can I type my email? Is it being kind of annoying? It's like asking me to type the password and then type it again and using a symbol that I don't have on my keyword, right? Like maybe it's asking all of this and that's preventing you from signing up. But then after that, you have like what I call messaging and user intent, which is beyond what's in the UI. What are the people that are bringing into my product? What are they trying to do? So if I'm bringing a guy that wants to learn about product management or about growth, how can I communicate that to them so that they actually sign up and do all these steps, right? And so that's what we tend to call user intent, right? Like understanding what's kind of the true motivation of the user, and how can we provide that and communicate that through the product.
Got it. Yeah, so if I'm signing up for a course because I want to learn how to code in JavaScript,
yes,
make sure you address everything that I need in the first 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like, this is the scope of the course. This course is for XYZ audience. I expect you to have this level of knowledge. Yeah. You're going to need this computer, this IDE, all these things. Yeah. So like set the expectation. So like, correct. If I'm a beginner, I'm not taking an advanced course. Yeah. Make it transparent.
You can qualify the user for the product. And these can have different shapes or forms, right? Like it could be, maybe if it's a social product, you can show, hey, your friends are here, and that's what you should sign up for, so you can talk to them. If it's an online course, you want to show the material, maybe give a preview of the course. If it's a product that you can buy, like it's an e-commerce store and you're buying like a podcasting equipment, you want to show all the specifications, right? To make sure that people know what they're buying.
What's funny is I love that you mentioned the podcasting thing. The reason why I bought this recorder that's on the table right now is because I went to YouTube, and one of my favorite podcasters is Tim Ferriss. Yeah. And I searched Tim Ferriss, how to podcast. And he had a 20-minute video on, this is the gear I use for all my interviews. Nice. This recorder. And that's why I bought it. Because if he uses it, I want it. Yeah. Because it has that, it has that handshake, right? That seal of approval.
Yeah. There's like the trust that you put both on, I'd say, the person that you're getting the recommendation from, but also on your research method, which is using YouTube or Google to research what you want to find.
Yeah. So the last step you mentioned was retention.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that?
Yeah. So retention is arguably, if you think about growth as like kind of a Venn diagram with different parts, there's this part that is marketing and it's related to user acquisition. And then there's this handoff through activation. And then you land on the product. And the most successful companies, they all are really good at retaining customers. Unless you're like a very specific type of product that you can only buy once, most companies get really big and they really grow and become amazing companies when they develop long relationships with their customers. So retention is all about that. And the best framework to think about it, that there's a term coined by Andy Rachleff and Mark Andreessen, which is product market fit. And basically means that your product found a need in the market. And then because of that, the market is not letting it go, right? Like there's a good fit between the both of them. The way that you measure that in consumer products is by looking at your retention numbers, and stick with me for a second. So your retention number means how many people that bought my product are coming back and buying it again, or how many users of my product are coming back and using it again. So that's why it's called retention. And there's a natural ratio for some of these, right? Like for a wedding product, it's only once, so you technically don't have retention. But maybe for audio equipment, you might buy a couple times a year. So you would expect your customers to come back. Like if you had an amazing experience in that store, and then maybe a year from now, who wants to upgrade his equipment, you come back to the same store, right? For Facebook, are people coming back daily? Or for WhatsApp, are my people, my users coming back daily, and are they sending more messages every day, right? And so that's kind of the key, and it's maybe the most important component of all of these, because if you have amazing user acquisition, an amazing activation, but then people never come back to your product because it has a lot of bugs, or it doesn't have the features that you need, or maybe if it's the online course, it doesn't have the information that you were promised, then you're not going to complete it, and you're going to leave, and you're going to probably not come back because you already tried it and it was bad. So why would you try it again?
Right.
And so that's really important. And that's why it kind of connects more to the world of traditional product management. which is understanding really well how do I get the people that are using the product to get what they want out of it, and building kind of those the features that they want. So,
what role do testimonials or like customer reviews play on this? Because I feel like there's a big opportunity there.
Yeah, that falls under the umbrella of social proof. That's what they call usually social proof. And it's a tactic that you can use on the user acquisition and activation side to increase conversion. So if maybe you're looking at the course and you're seeing some testimonials from people that you know in the industry, you're more likely to buy it. And so it's a great way to get people to cross that threshold and buy more from you. It can also take the form of like user reviews. So if you're looking at the podcasting equipment, maybe you see a review or many reviews, positive reviews, so you're more likely to buy it.
Right. Or I took this online program and I duplicated my salary because I got all the skills I needed to do that.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's
that.
Awesome. That's awesome.
The cool thing about growth, you can now see, for example, if you know that that's a big lever for you, now you can say, well, let's go and let's get more testimonials, and let's get testimonials for all of our courses, because we know that's important. So now you can break up that as a funnel. Like, what do I need to get a testimonial from someone, and have like this separate funnel that you can optimize, right? And get more people to acquire more testimonial givers, activate them, get them to retain and give more testimonials.
That's awesome.
So you can kind of keep going in your pursuit of growth.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. So that's the growth funnel there, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering, maybe we can move into a bit of the tactics, because I feel that when we talk about things like SEO, like search engine optimization, I'm sure you've seen this before, that you see people that do posts in Instagram with like 40 hashtags at the bottom.
Yes.
So what's that about?
Yeah. So let's take a step back, right? And say, let's think through the problem that you're trying to find something. Let's go back to the online course on growth. What is the first thing? So let's think about the kind of more of the user psychology, right? Like, I want to learn growth. So what do I do? So you probably go on Google or YouTube, which are kind of the biggest search engines, and you'll type something. So what you're typing is what we call a keyword, right? It's something you give to a search engine. The search engine job is then to find all the documents or all the videos around the web that are relevant for that keyword. That's the first job. The second job is to sort them in the most relevant way. And in order to do that, they have a set of scores or an algorithm. That's what we call the search engine algorithm, right? And they then show you probably around 10 results. That's kind of the standard. You'll see 10 YouTube videos on podcasting equipment, or you'll see 10 results on Google, maybe some ads. And search engine optimization is the process by which you understand that system, and then you can both create the content that your users are searching for, targeting the keywords that they are using. Because if you're using online course on growth and your courses never mention the word growth, they only say marketing and get more users, maybe Google doesn't know that they're the same thing. And so figuring out what your audience wants, creating content for that so that you can then compete in those search queries. And then there's another set of mechanics that you can use to rank higher for those results. So going back to the online course example, you type the query on Google, the keyword, online course for growth, or learn growth online. And then you see a set of results. The way Google is amazing now in terms of they decided they want to optimize for getting users what they want. And so they have a massive team of people saying, are my users getting what they want when they type a keyword? So they look at a number of things, but the key kind of abstraction around this is user intent. So if someone types online course for growth, or like growth online course, what do they want? And they have a whole algorithm that's seeing the behavior of people clicking on the results. And there's, for example, a good heuristic is if you type that and then you click on a result and then you never go back to Google, it means you found what you wanted.
Exactly. Like as you mentioned before, the Google makes money when they minimize the time you spend on the platform.
Yeah.
We got you out.
Yeah. And you found what you wanted. So that's probably the best result for that query. Okay. If you go back and then maybe you click on 3 other things, maybe those 3 things are the best results for that query. So they'll tend to rank higher. So there's this feedback loop that Google's using by looking at the behavior of the users and seeing what are the things that they're interacting with, what are the things that they're liking, and then ranking those higher. So what we do as growth managers is reverse engineer that. But you're reverse engineering that using data from Google, but knowing that the data is driven by user behavior.
The user intent.
Yeah, user intent of people successfully finding what they're looking for. And so you'll see this if you try a few queries on Google, you'll see different things. So for example, if you try a query that has the word how to, like how to tie my shoelaces, you'll probably see some videos. And that's because Google, through showing many types of results, the algorithm learned that when people are typing that sort of query, they want a video. So they're showing more videos at the top. If you try best restaurant in San Francisco, you'll see a map and a list of restaurants. So they know that when people are looking for a restaurant, they probably want to go to that restaurant. So they show you the map and the places around you.
Got it.
So as a growth manager and as a SEO person and professional, what you're doing is understanding for your company or the product that you're working for, what are all the things that people are searching? How can I classify them in groups? And then how can then I create content that targets that query and that keyword, or creating an experience, I would say more than content, an experience for the users so that they get what they wanted. Because say you have a restaurant and you have your page and people are typing best restaurant in San Francisco, you rank for that, but then maybe what people want is a way to make a reservation and you don't have that. Google will eventually drop you off the page. Right. Because they say all the other competitors have it, you don't have it, and they see that people going to your page tend to go to another page after that and reserve and never go back to your page. So they know they're reverse engineering that's a feature and experience that your users are looking for. So that's kind of the core around understanding user intent and then kind of building your product and your experience to fulfill that user intent.
Got it. And I love that you mentioned the restaurant example, because whenever I go to a restaurant website, the first thing it has is the about. My grandparents came to this country from Italy, and we use the freshest ingredients. And dude, I just want to know at what time you close. Yeah. And the phone number so I can order a pizza.
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't you put that in the front? So again, I bypass that. I just go to Yelp. Yeah. Because Yelp, the way it works is that it indexes all the things I care about. Yeah. Is it good for kids? At what time does it open? Do they take reservations?
They make them easy to find on the page of the restaurant. They probably highlight the day of the week that you're on so you can easily see on the schedule if it's relevant for you. So yeah. Yeah.
And Yelp is a product like any other. If you open up your wallet and you pay, you're going to rank your restaurant higher. Yeah. So that's, thank you for sharing that. Marco, you've been extremely generous with your time. From growth, we've been talking for an hour. Oh. I mean, I know we can talk about this area like 2 hours or whatever. But is there anything else in growth that you want to share with this audience? Anything that I didn't ask you that you wish you could answer?
I think maybe one thing that could be interesting is I'm going to give some qualities of someone that could be great at doing growth. Growth. And then almost like if you feel like those are qualities that you have, I would prompt you to kind of pursue or like learn more about it. I think it's kind of a new area and a new space. Definitely. It's getting developed. So I think, as I was saying, there's the number one kind of key thing is having a data-driven mindset. If all we have are opinions, that's just mine. Yeah. So going back to that.
Entre gustos y colores, los míos son los mejores. Of course.
Yeah. So if you, for example, for me, I tend to be very objective about everything. I'm an engineer by training. So a lot of really good growth people come from the engineering side. Some of them come from the kind of the psychology side and understanding people. But we all kind of meet in this need of understanding the numbers behind kind of this user behavior. So if you're really good with data and you really like to look at data to make decisions, I think it's a good space for you. The other thing is systems thinking. And by that, I mean, when you think about something, you break it up in parts, and then you start understanding how each part works. And you know, for example, that there's a feedback loop, right? Like maybe, for example, the Facebook feedback loop is if I invite my friends, they'll invite their friends, and then that creates virality, right? And this happens a lot in product. It happens on the content side. If I create tweets, then the tweets rank on Google, then more people come to Twitter, and then that creates more users. Same in Quora, for example. If I write a question, then people will come and answer that. Now that question shows up on Google, they get more users. So if this comes natural to you and you think about systems in this way, I would also prompt you to work on growth. And then the third item that I think is very important for both product and growth is understanding the market that you want to work on. So in the case of consumer products, understanding how the web works and understanding how apps work, so you can know the limitations of them and create these systems and make these data-driven decisions more easily. If you're working in say, healthcare, understanding some of the dynamics of those systems. If you're working in fintech, you have to understand banks and banking and finance. So different products and different areas will require you to have kind of some deeper knowledge. So if you have an area that you're really passionate about, and so it's almost like a T-shaped thing, right? Like you know about products, but then there's this area where you're really curious and really good at, then you can go deeper there and be a growth person or a product person in that space. So I think those three are kind of key, and you can see that through when you interview people. You can see how if they excel in that area, it's a lot easier to think about the systems and the data that you need to make the decisions.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. That's great. I think I should be into growth. Nice. I was going in the back of my mind like, oh yeah, check. Cool.
Nice.
That's awesome. Can you tell me in a nutshell, what is this Code for Venezuela thing?
Yeah, so Code for Venezuela is one of our side projects. And what we do is we gather a team of volunteers from Silicon Valley and the tech industry around the world. And we connect them with non-profits in Venezuela or that are focusing in Venezuela that need help with technology. So we see ourselves as a bridge to send some of the talent that left the country back in the form of technology. So bridging kind of that gap and helping people that are there on the ground still kind of trying to make the country a better place despite all the issues that we have, and just help them with what we are learning here or around the world in terms of technology, product design, marketing, and all these kind of areas. Great.
Yeah, I mean, because there's quite a bit of Venezuelans in Silicon Valley. Yeah. Actually, I've been amazed at how many I've met at Code for Venezuela events and the hackathon that you guys had last year.
I think there's at least a couple thousand Venezuelan professionals here. At least. So there's a lot of us, and many of us, we want to give back in an effective way. And I think the most valuable thing we have is our knowledge and our will to give back. So more than the money, I think the people in Venezuela that we're working with from all these organizations, they really appreciate our time and our energy in helping them solve things back home.
Got it. Can you mention maybe one project that was developed by Code for Venezuela?
Yeah, so more than one project. What I'm really excited about right now is we're building a data platform. we realized that all of these organizations were really, when we were going to them, they were asking us help with data. So they had requests around collecting data or analyzing data or storing the data that they had collected. And this is kind of a known problem or something that's been solved by all tech companies. You basically build a data platform where you have a few ways to send data in, and you store it, and then you have a few ways to analyze it and visualize it so you can make decisions and be data driven about it. So we decided to create a generic data platform we call Angostura. And Angostura allows organizations to, for example, monitor social media for blackout reports, or send surveys to their panels of volunteers in Venezuela. This could be doctors or just like standard citizens that are reporting on the state of hospitals, schools, etc. Then we store all that data for them, we clean it up, and then we provide some tools for them to analyze the data. So say, are things increasing or decreasing? Like, are we having more or less blackouts? Like, is it happening more in one side of the country or the other? So in a way, almost like collecting data about the real world in Venezuela that is very scarce, and then giving that to the organizations back so that they can make decisions and fulfill their mandate of that they might have on the ground. Yeah.
And I think that's great because it ties really well with that topic that that piece of user intent.
Yes.
You know what? I want to find out, where can I get that particular medicine that I need or my family needs? Yeah. Oh, let me go to Twitter.
Yeah.
Because that's the space I play in. Every Venezuelan knows how to use Twitter, and it's a very widely used platform with a lot of penetration. So, like, build your product around what people actually use.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if somebody tries to build a product for Venezuelans in Venezuela built around, I don't know, like GitHub or something like that. Like no, like you want to use something, a consumer app that everybody has already in their pockets. So, no, that's awesome. And I'm going to put in the show notes the website also of Go for Venezuela so people can check it out. I'm extremely proud of what you guys do. I'm a huge fan, and we've had you guys before in the Spanish podcast, but it's the first time we talk about it in the English podcast. So I want people to find out about it because I think it's
And if you're interested in collaborating, there's a form on the website, and you can email us, or you can reach out over LinkedIn. We're welcoming more volunteers, and we're excited to bring more people into the cause.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anything else you'd like to add? Parting words, where can people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. My last name is hard to spell, but you'll find it on the show notes. I'm always happy to talk about growth. Come if you have good questions and you're excited about something. I'm just like really happy to nerd out about growth, product management, consumer products, being in Silicon Valley, how to hack your way into product management. So
and an authentic Italian food.
Yes, so I have a few recent obsessions, food obsessions. So Italian food. Now I'm actually into mezcal. And
nice.
Did you know that Cocuy is a Venezuelan mezcal?
Really?
Yeah. So Cocuy is made out of agave.
Oh.
So it's the only other country that has an agave distilled spirit.
Nice. So maybe you could say that mezcal is the Mexican Cocuy.
Yes.
Just, flip it around, man. Flip it around. And it's like people say that, oh yeah, I want to be the Bill Gates of Venezuela. No, like Bill Gates wants to be the Hugo Castellanos of Venezuela, of the US. Yeah. I mean, can we get Cocuy in the US?
I don't think we can. It's very small.
Yeah, we need to smuggle it in somehow. No. Get it through the regular channels and pay all the tariffs. Of course. Always legal.
In a couple of years, we'll do an episode about my Cocuy brand. I'm not joking.
Your Cocuy startup.
Yeah.
Ay, Cocuy.
Yeah.
Cocuy. CI.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. No, thank you so much, Marcos.
No, this was my pleasure.